meet Christina's brother in that section. So I'm going to just read that and then I'll go on to section 2. Growing up with Sebastian had been a never-ending cycle of achievement and humiliation. When Christina got an award at school, her brother would accidentally knock it off the table, sending it crashing to the floor in pieces. When she received accolades for her piano recital performance, Sebastian dismissed it with, "I've never been so bored in my life." When the neighborhood kids played kickball, Sebastian, weighing nearly twice as much as his sister, appointed himself as both pitcher and referee. He'd tackle Christina just before she crossed home plate, leaving her bloodied or limping, invariably ending the game. In 8th grade, Christina arrived home from school to find her parents confronting Sebastian, who had just been suspended from college. He'd yelled, "Get her out of here." When they left the house, he barged into her room and pinned her to the floor in a chokehold, his hand over her mouth, yelling, "What I do is none of your damn business." Dominic, younger and smaller than Sebastian, tried to intervene a few times, but he couldn't physically overcome his brother. He became the target if he told their parents, who continued to assure each other that Sebastian was just a bit high-strung and that he'd grow up to become the prized elder son they could be proud of. Neither Dominic nor Christina could bring themselves to dispel that hope. So the second excerpt I'm going to read is from later in the book, and the year is 1984. And Christina had been working at a fictitious software company outside of Philadelphia for about a year. She's plagued by self-doubt and imposter syndrome. President Reagan had come to her company campus to give a speech about fostering innovation, and Christina was interviewed by a TV reporter as one of the few women in the crowd. This scene starts the day after. Christina found a company letterhead envelope waiting on her desk when she arrived at work. Tearing it open, she read the message, handwritten in heavy ink with an extravagant forward-leaning slant. "Christina, I saw the ABC News interview. Your comments were intelligent and insightful. I'd like you to meet me for lunch at noon in the executive dining room to discuss your interview. Signed, Elliot McMaster, HSA President and CEO." She'd been told about the executive dining room by the Seattle sales team. They had the honor of joining Elliot for a celebratory dinner there upon breaking the sales record last year. They couldn't stop talking about the carved mahogany panels, the immense granite tabletop, and of course the lavish gourmet meal served to them by gloved waiters. They drank fine wines chosen and poured by a New York City sommelier. The sales manager, Kip, gushed about the melt-in-your-mouth filet mignon and lobsters the size of footballs. Christina wondered if she would regret having eaten breakfast, but knew her nerves would have overcome her on an empty stomach. She was grateful she had dressed well out of habit, her navy interview suit paired with a silky white blouse. Clothing was now the least of her worries. How does one have a casual conversation with the founder of the company and offer suggestions for his products without coming off as a cocky, brash up-and-comer? David Stokes came into her office just as she had finished reading the letter. "I hear you got an invitation from Elliot." He grinned and raised his eyebrows. "You knew about this?" "Only to confirm with Elliot's assistant that you are on my team. I took all the credit for hiring you." "What did that get you?" she said. I was hoping it would get me an invitation to the lunch, but it didn't. You're on your own." "David, I'm terrified. What business do I have telling Elliot what to develop, discussing the systems he created?" "Elliot is approachable, despite his gruff exterior, and Jack Walters will be there too. He knows you." "David, why me? I'm just a girl from Delaware who not too long ago was told she wasn't good enough to pursue her dreams. I can't bear the thought of getting reamed out by Elliot. He'll tell me I'm getting too big for my britches. I shouldn't have talked to that reporter." She stared at the envelope until the tears in her eyes dissipated. "No, Christina, whoever told you that was dead wrong. You've proven yourself here over the last year, and we have high hopes for you. Most of our people punch out at 5 and never give another thought to hospital problems or better solutions. They get home to their TVs and barbecues and shut their brains off until 8 o'clock the next morning. I don't own a barbecue grill, she said, wiping her wet cheek. No, you go in there and hold your head up high. You tell them what you saw in the ER, what you see when you're on site, what our clients want and what our patients need. You really do listen and observe better than anyone around. No sense in keeping that to yourself. Her coworker, Gary, interrupted. Just so you know, as her mentor, I should also be invited to the lunch. The only one getting a fancy lunch is Christina. But if you could put in a good word for your boss and your mentor, we'd really appreciate it. David winked. I felt like a proud papa last night seeing you on the news. Christina wondered if her own father would share that sentiment or see it as yet another instance of his daughter being uppity. The morning hours passed like rising floodwaters. Studying data dictionaries provided enough distraction until it was time for Christina to go before the wolves. Why do they want to hear from me? Who am I to tell them what their company should do? Until I started working here at HSA, no one had ever in my life asked for my opinion on anything important. And I learned early not to voice it, or else I'd suffer the consequences. If I tell them what I think, I'm likely to get laughed out of the room or maybe even fired for my audacity. Christina fully expected to be put in her place. She'd rehearsed an apology to these men who had spent the last 12 years building a software company that led hospitals into the world of computers. Her stomach lurched and her legs wobbled, but she took deep breaths and focused on the importance of helping NICU babies and ER patients. That fueled her confidence, and she summoned enough strength to advocate for them. Jack Walters led her into the dining room when she knocked. Hello, Mr. Walters. Jack. Thank you for stopping over to wish me well the night of my software testing. I'm sure you had more important matters to attend to. Nothing more important than the quality of our product, Christina. We rely on people like you to put our best foot forward. From what I hear, you did a bang-up job out there in Washington. Christina suddenly felt her face radiating heat. Just then, a lumbering Elliot McMaster and 2 other men burst into the room. Christina and the men waited to take their seats until after Elliot had settled into the padded, oversized leather chair at the head of the table. We all watched the news clip, Miss Como. Can I call you Christina? I wonder if you had spoken to our PR team before agreeing to the interview. Oh boy, here was the admonishment Christina expected. I wasn't aware of a PR team, Mr. McMaster, and I hadn't prepared for any interview. I was stopped by a reporter as we were dashing from the field. Call me Elliot, he said, reaching for his dinner napkin and opening it with a flourish. For someone not prepped for the media, you did well. You had that reporter hanging on your every word. I just answered her questions. I'd never been to a political event before, and honestly, I know little about tax reform. But you know about software and hospitals. I'm learning, sir. Elliot looked over his shoulder for an imaginary general. We're not in the military here. It's Elliot, remember? David Stokes says you're the best he's got. Central Washington wants you back there. You knocked the habits off the nuns in Alaska and the crawfish from the Creoles down in the bayou. Even Optinacher in Las Vegas was impressed, and that's one tough nut to crack. Christina nearly choked on her ice water at the mention of Optinacher, recalling his off-color comments about her looks and her youth. So we're going to have a nice lunch here, and we'd like you to tell us what you're seeing out there in the hospitals, where you think we should focus our development. Christina took a deep breath and started in. Her passion for the patients, for nurses and physicians, and for making healthcare work better came through loud and clear. While she loved computers, she told them, she considered software merely a tool for solving big problems, with the potential to change lives. Keeping her remarks brief, she focused on the opportunity to simplify the process, to facilitate better care, and to make the job easier for dedicated clinicians who labor over long hours under challenging circumstances. I know we can do more, she concluded. She had hardly touched her poached salmon. the hollandaise asparagus, and scrumptious-looking crab louis in an etched martini glass, as the men scarfed up their meal along with her words. When they started talking to each other about the company's development plan, she stole a few bites of the meal she wished she hadn't been too nervous to enjoy. Jack Walters looked directly at her and said, "Christina, I know you were hired into David's team, but we really want to have you work in product development. The pipeline for clinical systems is just starting up. You would thrive there. What do you think?" That's tempting. I'm in the midst of a project for David now, and I would hate to leave him in the lurch. He's the one who gave me the opportunity to work here, and I owe him a lot. And I really like traveling to the hospital sites because I see how they operate. I'm not sure I'm cut out for heads-down programming and development, frankly. I'm not talking heads-down coding. I'm talking product and system design. You set the direction. You own the design. You'd be going out to more sites, collect requirements, gather insight, research the market, then come back and translate that into a product. You could even finish your project for David before starting. Jack Walters presented an offer she couldn't refuse.